Hello, my name's Stephen Cornwall from Energy Medicine and Interex Pain Clinic, and today I want to talk to you about these things, flip-flops, and how they interact with these things, your feet. Now, I've just come back from a lovely holiday in Cornwall, mixed weather because we live in England, so did too much travelling, but spent quite a lot of time on the beach. Love being on the beach, and when you walk on a beach, you walk differently. Most people, especially if you're by the sea and you're sort of just on the edge where water's coming in over your feet, you tend to walk barefoot. And when I was watching people, I couldn't switch off because my brain's always in rehab mode. When you watch people, you see they all walk much better. So they walk more with a heel-toe action, and as the sand gives away underneath their feet, they get support on their foot. They then push off, they have to lift their foot a little bit higher, they then land on their heel, and they walk, and their mechanics of walking is much, much better. And it made me think, oh, right, okay, so if we always could walk on soft ground, we wouldn't need footwear. And obviously that's not attainable. It would be amazing if we could, but it's not realistic. So obviously footwear is a really key problem that we have with issues with foot problems, ankle problems, and particularly plantar fasciitis, because we tend to damage part of the tissue in the heel because we've done something wearing footwear normally that was excessive. It could be a fall, it could be wear and tear, it could be standing too much, everything else. But the key thing is that because our foot's supported in some way and we're moving in a particular way, that the muscles aren't being used in the correct format. So when you walk, what you should be doing is, everyone tells me this, you land on your heel, your body weight transfers, then you push off. And that is exactly how everyone should walk and does walk to some level. Now, the key thing that I noticed when I was on the beach was that when people were walking on soft sand and they were walking usually by the water, because that's where I spend quite a lot of the time because I quite enjoy that type of environment. Obviously, as you walk through that, your stride length slightly shorter because no one's rushing, so we're not at work, we're on holiday, so everyone's in a more relaxed state, people are chatting, it's really, really positive. So obviously then, as that goes through, because of your foot going into the dirt, into the sand, and it's landing on its heel, your body weight's transferring, then you're pushing off, that movement is all supported by the movement then of the sand and the water over your feet. So what that does then is provide the foot with loads of support, and it's really comfortable to do. Now, what's interesting is if you walk a little bit away from the water coming in and the sand's, say, wet and it's quite heavily packed, it's quite hard. Everyone starts to walk slightly differently. So what they do then is they shorten their stride even more, but they tend to then walk, they push off the same, but they land a little bit more flat-footed or on their toes. And the reason they're doing that is they're using their foot as a shock absorber. So the landing on the toe takes some of the pressure off because the ground is a lot harder. So we already adapt what we do. Then as you get closer to the sort of amenities and stuff with the beach, as you come onto the drier sand, maybe from where people are sunbathing and everything else, people put on these things, me included. So the whole point of putting those on is so that you can walk around the little shops, nip to the car, whatever else, and you've got some level of protection from the hard ground, the uncomfortable stuff, whether it's rocks, whether it's tarmac. Now obviously when you put these on, you have to do something slightly differently. So we've talked initially, perfect sort of walking movement, heel-toe action, brilliant. You go onto some harder ground in bare feet, it's still not too uncomfortable, but you do modify what you do. As soon as you put these on, you change everything that you do. So the first thing that changes is, instead of your foot being nice and flat, all of the muscles at the bottom, so all the muscles around here, start to work in this sort of movement because they're holding the flip-flop on the foot. So they're holding it where your laces would normally hold on. Okay, so if the muscles are working the opposite way, it's more difficult to walk properly with heel toe and push off because you're holding a flip-flop on. So what you tend to do is you slide. So it's a little bit like you're either ice skating or cross-country skiing. So your movement is like this as opposed to that, that and that. And the reason for that is you're holding the footwear on your foot. Now, I see a lot of people in the summer with plantar fasciitis. It's really warm, it's hot today, and they go, oh, I want to wear flip-flops. Flip-flops are brilliant for short-term use, but not for long-term use. So, as I said, I've wear flip-flops, and I will literally go from the edge of the beach to the car, put my trainers on, so I wouldn't drive in them or anything else. I certainly wouldn't walk any distance in them. I find them personally uncomfortable, so that's a really easy prohibitor. A lot of people find them comfortable, and there's some really, really cool flip-flops now where they've got lots of support, they've got almost like cushioned soles, everything, which is brilliant from a stand point of view. But as soon as you start walking in them, you're altering your movement position, you're having to hold the flip-flop on your foot, and you're going to change how you walk accordingly. What that does then is put a lot more pressure on your fascia. Now, if you've got plantar fasciitis, that's just going to aggravate it. So I say to everybody, particularly in the hot weather, shoes and socks off, let your feet be the feet, and obviously allow the foot to modify depending on the surface and the environment, so what you need to do. And that means that all the muscles that you've got in your foot, so all the muscles at the bottom here and the ones underneath, can obviously help work to support your foot. Now, the best thing about soft ground is that obviously it moves with you, so you have to use all of your muscles to gain traction. So you'll find that if you do a lot of walking on sand, your feet start to hurt because the muscles aren't used to working in that way, which is brilliant. And then if you run in sand, what you notice is that people, again, do really push off, so you get loads of sand kicking up and everything else because the ground's giving away. So you can see why your foot is operating the way that it is, and obviously also about why it's so flexible. So there's so many muscles and so many bones in your foot to allow for all the nuances of movement to aid with balance, otherwise you'd fall over. So the key thing is, if we could live in a society where we could just literally walk by the beach all the time, we'd be in utopia. But the reality is, footwear is really, really important, but you need to think about your footwear for what you're doing for an activity and change your footwear accordingly. Now, you naturally change how you walk depending on the surface when you're in bare feet. So the example I gave, you walk really, really well when you're on soft sand by, say, by the sea, when the water's coming in. As the sand gets harder, you modify how you walk. So you naturally do that because of how it feels. Now, obviously then, if you then go into the next phase where you start putting different sorts of footwear on, again, what that does is it reduces your sensitivity to the environment. So therefore, you walk in relation to the footwear, not in relation to the environment. And obviously a lot of people choose incorrect footwear. I've talked a lot about trainers and boots and other bits in other videos. But the key thing I want you to focus on, it's summer. Wear these sparingly, short distances, standing's fine, but no real long walking around, particularly if you're going to the shops or other activities. Sandals where they actually hold onto your foot, much, much better. And obviously that, if you've got any plantar fasciitis or any issues, these things just make it 10 times worse. You're way better off, as much as possible, being in bare feet. That's what your foot was designed for. And obviously then, from a movement and walking point of view, it will strengthen the foot up and it will help your fascia heal. So that'll make a huge difference. So my little rant over on flip-flops, they're very, very good for short distances. If you've got plantar fasciitis, get rid of them. But everything else, your body molds itself depending on the environment. So you adjust how you stand and you walk depending on what feedback and feeling you get. So obviously that's really important to help keep all the muscles strong and all the structures strong. If you then sanitize that by putting boots on and shoes on and everything else all of the time, your foot gets weaker and weaker, which is why we have a big prevalence of plantar fasciitis. So if you want to find out more, have a conversation with me, there's loads of links and other bits that you can look at in the various bios, and also then with contacting me via the website. So my name's Stephen Cornwall from Energy Medicine and Interex Pain Clinic, and my rant on flip-flops is now over.